Hey guys, this is Tell the Truth. Now, a while ago, ODD TV had this video called, he came out with a video called Flat Earth in 5 Minutes. And sometime after that, Voysovreason comes out with a video called Flat Earth Falsities, where he debunks the Flat Earth in 5 Minute video. And he debunks some of the claims that ODD, or at least tries to debunk some of the claims that ODD was trying to make in his video. And his video is about 20 minutes long. I watched it, and there was a number of things that he was saying that weren't exactly true or true at all. And I just wanted to go over some of the things he said in his video and give my reasons why. You may consider this to be a debunking over debunkers video, but and it is pretty much. But my goal is to get as closer to the truth as possible. So, without further ado, let's go.
Water, when unmanipulated, is to find its level. So whether you look at a cup of water, a bathtub, a swimming pool, a lake, or the ocean, it's flat.
Water finds its level is a very vague and unscientific way to express the physics of liquids.
Saying that water finding its level is vague and unscientific is a very lousy response. It is not vague to say that water finds its level. I pour a glass of water, it's level. I go to the ocean or swimming pool, the water seems to be level. That is not vague, it is in fact very clear. Secondly, it is scientific in regards to the fact that you can test and observe it again and again, that water does find its level regardless of the shape of the container. What is so difficult or unscientific about that?
The undeniable fact is that water and all liquids conform to the forces acting on them. Put water on a giant sphere with trillions of tons of mass, which results in gravity pulling towards the center, and the water will easily and naturally conform to the shape of the sphere. And what force do they think causes water to find its level anyway? Of course, it's gravity.
No, we do not think it's gravity, and we don't need gravity, and no one knows exactly what gravity is. We know the forces that operate. You guys call it gravity, though you don't know what gravity is in and of itself. We think it's density and buoyancy. Do your own research, period.
But for some childishly naive reason, they think the direction of gravity's pull must be a universal downward direction.
Actually, no. I've never heard this argument from a flat earther. And if the tables were to be turned, globe earthers would like to say that if in a flat earth model, won't the oceans be falling off the edge of the earth? This is what they think about. Globe earthers make these same types of criticisms, too.
Whether you are looking at Toronto's skyline from Niagara on the Lake, 31 miles away, Chicago's skyline from Union Pier, 43 miles away, or even Oahu from Kauai, which is up to 108 miles away from center to center, or 73 miles away from the closest points, you will not see any curvature where it's supposed to be. According to the Pythagorean theorem, which states that the curvature of the Earth is 8 inches per mile squared, Oahu should not be visible whatsoever, but you can see the whole thing.
First of all, it is important to know that flat earthers are all using the same incorrect calculation when talking about the curve of the Earth. The 8 inches per mile squared calculation does not measure the curvature of the line of sight, or tell you how much of an object should be hidden by the horizon. Rather, it measures the drop from an imaginary horizontal line extended out from the viewer's position. That is measurement D in this diagram. You can easily see that this does not tell us how much will be hidden behind the horizon. There is a different calculation for that. There is a website that will do that calculation correctly for you for any distance and viewing height at metabunk.org/curve. The details of the calculation are explained on that site as well.
Okay, now he goes on to try to debunk some of ODD's examples that he provided in his video. And the honest thing here for me to say is that he actually makes a really fair point. I see a lot of people using this 8 inches per square mile calculation as explained that there is no curvature, and he makes a fair point in saying that we should probably be using something that's more accurate, technically speaking. So I went over to metabunk.org/curve and saw the calculator there that's supposed to calculate curvature, and it also takes into account the atmospheric refraction as well. And I also found another video on YouTube where a guy has his camera 5 feet off the level of the lake or river, I believe, and he's taking a shot that's 17 miles across towards the bridge, and he's trying to test if there's curvature or not. He ends up proving that it's flat, but he also uses the 8 inches per square mile. So I went in and did my own calculation and got the correct height in feet for the water to obscure what's supposedly behind it. And what I found that it still doesn't add up. There still isn't a curve as you would expect. Okay, so the bridge is 220 feet off the water. That's its vertical clearance. 220 feet clear off the surface of the water. So based on the location of the camera, which is 17 miles away, we're supposed to see at least 112 feet of water obscuring it. That's 112 is basically nearly half of 220. So the water level should be at least halfway up the pillars of the bridge based on where the camera is. But it doesn't appear to be that way. We don't really see that. Observation still stands that the Earth is flat and there is no curvature, and that's my take on it. But thank you, Voysovreason, for your more accurate calculation, or pointing us to a more accurate calculation. But observation that I've seen here still tells me that we're not really seeing the water rising halfway up the pillar of the bridge.
According to the globular theory, a lunar eclipse occurs when the Sun, Earth, and Moon are in a direct line. But it is on record that since about the 15th century, over 50 eclipses have occurred while both the Sun and Moon are visible above the horizon. F.H. Cook, The Terrestrial Plane.
When a lunar eclipse occurs, the round shadow of the spherical Earth crosses the face of the Moon. On some occasions, both the Sun and the Moon can be seen at the same time in the sky during the eclipse. But this is due to atmospheric refraction. At low angles, the atmosphere can act like a lens, which bends the light of the Sun and Moon a little bit around the curve of the Earth.
Can you prove it though? Can you prove that it is atmospheric lensing that causes the Moon, which is supposedly below the horizon, to come up over the horizon along with the Earth's shadow and cause this effect of a lunar eclipse when the Moon and the Sun are both above the horizon and in the sky? If you do have an experiment to show me that is true, then awesome. Second of all, I don't think you can say that this is the case for every time this has happened in history, because there's so many instances when it has happened, and we do not necessarily know the atmospheric conditions of each and every one of those instances. Third, I feel that your argument is quite a stretch, but you don't need to take it from me. There's a simple experiment that was done by Rob Skiba where he explains the effects of atmospheric lensing on the Sun and the Moon.
So thinking about all this and thinking about what I had just shown you regarding atmospheric lensing, magnification, refraction, all that with regard to cities and objects at a distance on the land, I got to thinking, I wonder how this would work with the Sun and Moon. So this is what I came up with. I've got my magnifying sheet frame, and I created a little stand to paste the sun on it and keep it the same height over the flat surface of a table. So the sun is always going to be parallel with the surface. And check this out. All right, here's the first test of a sun moving over a flat surface, and with no atmospheric magnification, it does what we might expect it would. It gets smaller as it goes away from us. All right, now let's see what happens when we add in our atmospheric magnification. Again, water and refraction. Water causes magnification and refraction, right? So let's bring the sun back. Oh, check this out. Refraction bends the light downward. It made the sun set on a parallel surface. As it was moving parallel, the same height, the whole way over a flat surface, the refraction caused the sun to set. Not only that, well, let's bring in the beginning of that little test, and we see that it maintained pretty much the same size, too. Pretty close. And of course, that's because as it's moving away, the magnification is still taking place. And so even though the sun's further away than it was in the beginning of the test, the magnification basically preserved the same size, and the refraction made it set. Of course, again, depending on how much moisture is in the air,
Flat earthers have no scientific answer for what causes lunar eclipses in the first place.
Give us a break, okay? You guys have a 500-year run to figure your shit out. I think you can give us a couple more years before we all unanimously agree upon a certain explanation for how lunar eclipses happen. Okay, and saying that we do not have an explanation for it yet does not count as proof for your explanation for how lunar eclipses occur to be true.
We are told that the Earth spins at 1,040 miles per hour, while the Earth travels around the Sun at 66,000 miles per hour. Meanwhile, the whole solar system is going inside the Milky Way galaxy at a speed of 490,000 miles per hour. And finally, the entire Milky Way galaxy is darting through infinite space at over 1 million miles per hour. Most people believe this, and yet every experiment ever conducted to prove even the simple spin of the Earth has failed.
No. Look at the stars each night, and notice, in the northern hemisphere, they appear to rotate counterclockwise around the northern celestial pole, and a star called Polaris. And in the southern hemisphere, different stars appear to rotate around the southern celestial pole in the opposite direction, clockwise. This alone proves the Earth spins.
What the bloody hell, my God. Mr. Voysovreason, if you looked outside your window at your home and saw a car moving, would you come to the conclusion that the car is still and your house is moving across the street at 80 miles per hour? If your answer is no, and I hope it's no, just so you're sane, then why would you think that if you looked at the stars rotate around Polaris in the night sky, why would you come to the conclusion that it's the Earth that's moving? Unless you had already believed that it is, and this is no longer proof for the model, but this is how you would evaluate this phenomena based on the model that you have already accepted. Therefore, this cannot be proof for the fact that the Earth is spinning, because you already believe it. If you're born today and heard nothing about the globe theory or the globe model, you would not think instinctually that the Earth is moving. You would think that the stars are moving in the sky around Polaris. That this is what you would think. This is not proof that the Earth is spinning. Also, I don't think it's wise to use the rotation of the stars as proof that the Earth is moving or spinning. One reason is because a cycle of a star is 23 hours and 56 minutes, meaning it takes that much time before a star comes back to its exact position in the night sky as it was a day before. What we do measure day by is the solar day, which is the time taken for the sun to reappear at sunrise or at sunset. And it's called solar day, and it's 24 hours, roughly that much amount of time. So you have to make up your mind. You're either going to go with the solar day or the sidereal day, which is the amount of time it takes for the stars to move around in the night sky, which is 23 hours and 56 minutes. So in the end, I conclude that this is not proof for a spinning Earth. It only shows that the stars are moving around us in the night sky.
As for the Earth's orbit around the Sun, we don't see that because the stars are so tremendously far away. Our trip around the Sun is minuscule in comparison, so our view only changes by a tiny, barely measurable amount, not large enough for us to see.
Okay, I'm a little confused now. You're telling me that the Earth's orbit is too small as it moves around the Sun. It's too small in comparison to the distance of the stars that we see in the night sky. Therefore, we cannot derive any understanding of the speed or how the Earth moves around the Sun from this concept. But at the same time, I read this article from the University of Durham, I think that's how you say it, and it basically tells me that the Earth rotating on its axis and going around the Sun in its orbit has a certain effect, and that causes the stars to appear as 4 minutes late as compared to a solar day, meaning you have 23 hours 56 minutes for the star cycle, but 24 hours for a solar cycle. And that's why we get the discrepancy. So here's what the article says. Solar days and sidereal days. Solar time is the time measured with respect to the sun's apparent motion in the sky. The clocks we use for civil timekeeping are based on this motion. Of course, the apparent motion of the sun across the sky is actually caused by the rotation of the Earth. So our clocks measure the length of time required for the Earth to rotate once with respect to the sun. From our perspective, the sun revolves around the Earth every 24 hours. This period is known as a solar day. Sidereal time is time measured with respect to the apparent motion of the fixed stars in the sky due to the Earth's rotation. While the Earth is rotating on its axis, it is also moving along its orbit around the sun. Over the course of a day, the Earth moves about 1 degree along its orbit. 360 degrees in a full orbit divided by 365.25 days in a year is about 1 degree. Therefore, from our perspective, the sun moves about 1 degree from west to east with respect to the fixed stars. All this means that according to our clocks, which are based on solar time, a given star will rise or set about 4 minutes earlier each day. For example, a star that rises at 9 p.m. tonight will rise at 8:56 p.m. tomorrow and 8:52 p.m. the next night. 1 month later, the star will rise or set 2 hours earlier. In other words, from our perspective, the stars revolve around the Earth in only 23 hours and 56 minutes. This period is known as a sidereal day. So I guess in a nutshell that I have learned that the movement of the Earth around the sun and its own rotation and the stars, they all have an effect, and that's what causes the stars to be behind by 4 minutes each night. But you also tell me that all this is so incrementally small that there is no noticeable effect at all, and we can't tell that we're moving around the sun. And I'm getting really confused. I just wish you globe heads would just make up your mind.
Do you have any idea the impact of what you're doing?
Yes, I do.
Do you understand the impact of what you are doing?
And as for all the other movements, we don't see them because all the stars we see with the naked eye are in the Milky Way galaxy with us, moving at about the same speed and direction with us.
The same thing goes for curvature. It's never been proven, and the only time we see it is in movies, NASA CGI, or when we're looking through a distorted fisheye lens.
So, we have never seen the curvature? Well, only if you reject all images of Earth from space, and only if you have never seen the sun or moon rise or set. They obviously slide behind the horizon due to the Earth's curvature, rather than shrinking out of view as they would if they were just circling above a flat Earth.
A setting sun on the horizon does not prove that the Earth is a globe. There is no scientific correlation that says it's a globe. It's just how you understand things to work on your globe model. And you also say that if the Earth is flat, then the sun will shrink as it sets. And since that is your statement, then how about you look at this video?
So please take note not to ignore this evidence. Other videos you've seen where it looks like it's going in an arc like that and going off into the distance. Other videos where people have taken and used filters and whatnot and analyzed the sun moving and then done measurement of pixels across the screen, showing that it does in fact look like it gets a little bit smaller in some cases it gets a lot smaller. In this case from 302 pixels to 290. And then of course there's this video right here, which apparently was shot in the desert where there's going to be a lot less moisture, and so whenever there's less moisture you're going to obviously have less refraction and magnification.
You don't get to pick the anomalies that seem to agree with your views and ignore the common observations that don't, and still call yourself an honest investigator. That is intellectually dishonest. And only if you have never measured the angle of the sun or stars above the horizon with a sextant to determine your latitude, as sailors have done for centuries.
And what about ancient tools like the astrolabe that had 300 plus users, including telling time of day, telling the position of the stars, and measuring the altitude of the sun, and these were all based on the understanding that the world was flat. And the use of a sextant for mariners doesn't necessarily prove that we live on a globe. In fact, sextants were also used to prove that the sun and the stars are closer than 93 million miles.
And we don't just detect the curve, we also measure it directly. For centuries, geodesic surveying techniques have been used to accurately measure the Earth's curvature, for the purposes of allocating land, laying out cities, and making maps. When measuring large segments of land, the Earth's curvature becomes readily apparent.
If what you are saying is completely true, then how can we have this Gleason map that was said to be scientifically and practically correct? Also on this map, it shows that the southern hemisphere is not curving to form a ball. In fact, it's expanding as a flat plane. Keep in mind that the Suez Canal is 101 miles long, and during the construction of it, they did not account for any curvature whatsoever. There are also many other examples where in construction they do not account for curvature, but I may decide to go into them in more depth in a separate video. Thanks guys for watching. It's been Tell the Truth. The summary of points that I went through in this video are the water level, curvature, curvature over water, lunar eclipses, motions of celestial bodies, and the spinning Earth. So those sorts of things I've tried to talk about. I did not address every single point that Voysovreason made in his debunking video. Some of the things that he said were, for example, with eye level, with regard to high altitude balloon footage, he couldn't verify if in the footage the cameras under the balloons maintained eye level throughout the whole time. So he had some doubts and concerns about that topic. And he also talked about NASA images and made some decent arguments over why they are what they are. You can go watch this video and see what he says about it. And he also talked about the Michelson Morley experiment as well. I did not address those, especially with NASA and Michelson Morley. I did not want to address those topics because they are not my area of competence, at least as of today. But who knows, maybe in future I may make some videos on those topics. So that's why my video is the way it is, and this is the route I've chosen to take. These are the battles that I chose to fight, and yeah, that's what I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching, and take care, guys. Remember to always tell the truth.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.